at the moment we're going to be turning our attentions to Germany, who for some people are perhaps favourites up there with Spain and Holland, and I have to say Italy or else Mina will lose her mind for the Euros. But if we look at Germany, look at the threat they've got. Obviously, we saw them in the last time out in Africa, and they did very well indeed as well. A young squad that are now grown, obviously, with experience, with playing with each other. How much of a chance have they honestly got, in your opinion, Flash?
Earlier on in the season, they were my tip, and after the season, I've seen a lot of their players. I've gone cold on them for some reason, and I've got no evidence for the reason. I just think to myself that I'm not happy with the way that they're setting up. Some of the players are playing, some should be playing but are not. And I'm thinking he might be overcomplicating things.
What do you mean some are playing that? What?
Well, I mean, is he going to go with Schweinsteiger, Ozil, Müller, and then will he go with Klose and Gomez up the top? Then you've got Lahm,
No, he plays with Gomez or Klose, one of them.
Well, why? This is what I'm saying. Why?
Because
why
that's how they play. They play 3 with 1. Why would they? Why would they change a winning formula?
Well, who's going to play him behind?
You have Ozil, you have Gomez, or he likes Klose in front.
Yeah.
Then you've got
Müller, Cruz.
Müller, no, Cruz would sit at the behind, so it's either next to Schweinsteiger.
That's 7 midfielders.
Yeah, but you have so what? That's a problem because you have strength and depth.
You're only allowed to play 11.
Yeah, but that shouldn't be a problem. There's so many to choose from.
No, well, anyway, my tip is Germany.
Right.
But for some strange reason that I can't really answer at the moment, is I've gone a little bit cold on them. And I look at the oppositions. I look at the opposition in that group, and I think that both Holland and Portugal could get the better of them.
Well, someone who's been listening in with interest, Mina, is Titus Chalk. He's our German journalist. He's got in touch with us here at Sports Live. Titus, now, Flash has tipped them, but he's gone a little bit cold on them. Mina's saying they're the favourites, they're going to win it. From someone who obviously studies the German national side a little bit more than, well, certainly Flash and I, maybe not so much Mina. What are your thoughts on the Germans going into this tournament?
Well, it's obviously causing some debate in the studio there. I can see why. They've looked a bit lacklustre in the last 3 friendlies, really, and I think it's almost a case of them having an embarrassment of riches, really, and that's sort of troubling Joachim Löw. He's a very loyal coach. You know, he's always stuck by his players like Podolski and Klose, even when they've not been performing for their clubs. He even gave Kakao another chance in the national squad. So he wants to sort of stick with his settled lineup that he got working in the World Cup with Khedira and Schweinsteiger as the double pivot, Podolski, Ozil, and Müller and Klose up top. But he's got to deal with players like Götze and Royce, who have put in such phenomenal seasons for their clubs since the World Cup, and he's not quite sure, I don't think, how to balance that, because the team's really young, and there's people he needs on the pitch just for that experience and for that leadership, and he's just got a little bit of a juggling act trying to integrate that with the really sort of exciting youngsters who are pushing to be included from the bench.
Can he answer that dilemma, Mina?
No, I mean, there is an embarrassment of riches going forward, but I don't think that that's a problem. I think, if anything, that, you have options when something should happen to these players. But I think their main problem lies in the defence, because really they only have Mats Hummels, in my opinion, worth anything at the back, and obviously Philipp Lahm. But other than that, their defence is really their problem. If they can just maintain possession, they play really beautiful football, pressing, quick balls forward, pressing game. They play a little bit like, the energy of Borussia Dortmund. That's not the problem. You can throw in whoever you like. Their individual talent will succeed. My problem with them is the fact that they are not as well drilled as before, because they haven't had much time together before this tournament, which they did before in the World Cup. But what do you think about their chances in defence? Now, they're up against, Holland, who are also, in my opinion, quite abysmal at the back. Other than Portugal, I can't see them in that group. Their defence is actually probably not as bad comparison to the rest of the group. But do you think that they can get through? Because if they get scored against, they can just, I guess, optionally just score 5 more, But what about that defence?
Yeah, it is certainly a creaky defence, and it's not. This is a bit of a strange situation for Germany to be in. I would say Badstuber's probably the guaranteed starter ahead of Hummels, but it's true that there's not a settled centre-back pairing, and when you look at someone like Per Mertesacker being certainly the most experienced member of the back four who could come in, or the centre-half who could come in, he doesn't really inspire confidence. He's got the turning circle of a bus, and he can't really run. So that is a problem, but I do think they'll get it right. I mean, I think you have to. I don't think there's many tournaments that Germany somehow don't get it right once you know the whistle blows on the first game. So I've got faith in them doing it. I think the defence is a little bit more problematic because Schweinsteiger's not really been fit as well, and he's such an important link between the defence and the attack, and he's great at screening them. There's a little bit more risk of them being exposed, I think, if he's not at the top of his game.
It's so interesting that you say that about Schweinsteiger, because Chris thinks he's the best defender, best midfielder in the world, ahead of Andrea Pirlo. In fact,
I didn't say he's best in the world. I said I think he is better than Pirlo. But that's an argument I'm going to have with you very shortly.
Much better than Pirlo.
Tony, let's get away from the fact of they're so like all-star, all-gunning going forward. But when they play against Denmark, who don't let any goals in, and they're going to be frustrated. There's no weak link on the money every single game, because Portugal, if you score 2 against them, they'll try and score, they'll 3. And you got Holland. They've said it's a group of death, and that's an understatement.
Yeah.
Because if you slip up in one game, and also, Tony, I was going to say is, how do you think the Bayern Munich boys will be after the season that they've had mentally?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big issue. Löw has come out in the last couple of days and really backed all the Bayern players ahead of the Dortmund players. There's this kind of... There's probably a bit more made out of it by the press than there should be, that he tends to prefer the Bayern players over the Borussia Dortmund players. And I think that's, as he's pointed out, because Bayern just have much more experience in Europe and of those big games. I think they'll mostly be okay. If anyone is going to have a problem, I think it's Schweinsteiger. And it's not just because he missed that penalty in the Champions League final shootout. It's because his fitness isn't quite there, and I think we've seen it before of players of any country, when their fitness, when they can't quite trust their body, it's very difficult for them to regain form, especially in an environment like this group of death where there's so little room for error. And partly I think that's why Ilkay Gundogan made it into the squad, actually, because I see him as possibly a better replacement to Schweinsteiger in that midfield than Toni Kroos, because he's a bit more defensively minded. He's harder working, I feel, and is very strong on the ball, very hard to knock off the ball, and has got a great passing range as well. So I think Löw is kind of hedging his bets. He's just under pressure, though, to get the selection right, because there is so little room for manoeuvre in that group. And should something go wrong in the first game, if they don't walk away with 3 points, if Schweinsteiger doesn't look fit, if one of his players that he's always loyal to, maybe like a Thomas Muller, whose form's been very erratic, doesn't show up, then he's going to be under pressure to sort of see whether he can pick them up or tinker and change it round enough to sort of get them through the group.
Well, Titus, it's been an absolute pleasure to hear your views on Germany. We shall see how they do, obviously, in the tournament in a week or so time. But thanks for now for joining us, and we'll speak to you soon.
Yep, great. Take it easy.
I mean, we've got to go to a break very shortly. But out of all the teams, then Germany, for both of you, you're picking as the ones who will be lifting the trophy.
Listen, if we're going by, should football actually win? Like, if we, the best squad in this tournament, in my opinion, probably the best in the world. Maybe just Argentina's on par with them. If we're counting this, they should win it. They might not, because football's not fair, as we saw with Chelsea winning the Champions League.
Oi! Whoa! There's nothing to go.
And the fact that they're against Denmark, who also like to control the ball in the same way that Holland like to control the ball.
Stay ahead of the game with Sports Tonight Live. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Search for Sports Tonight Live on Facebook and like our fan page. Follow Sports Tonight TV on Twitter and tweet us your thoughts and opinions. Sports Tonight Live, it's the platform for the fans.